Being great at sales is essential to your business and your career, but you and I both know that the stress of selling and dealing with constant rejection can be an emotional drain. My entire brand, No BS Selling, is based on the belief that professional sales is a skill and not a personality, and that to be better at sales takes constant refinement and a dedication to your craft. This show is for salespeople and entrepreneurs who are committed to improving their sales skills and getting better results, and are sick and tired of the BS game that often happens between buyers and sellers. Welcome to the No BS Sales Podcast, and I'm your host, Walker McKay. I'll help you and your sales team make selling easier, feel less cheesy, and be more lucrative. It's time to change the rules and level the playing field between you and the people you sell to. You're already good. Let's be better. Welcome to the No BS Sales Podcast. I want you guys to listen today. I've got one of my favorite people in the whole world on as a guest today. And the reason I want you to listen is because this woman and her business have done more to dramatically change my business, I think, than anything else I have done in the last 3 or 4 years. The most, not exaggerating. My guest today is the outstanding Kenzie Biggins. She is the CEO and founder of Worksby, which is a virtual executive assistant business. You may not even know what that is right now, but it is badass. And so we're going to talk about that today and share with you what a virtual executive assistant is, what they do, and why you need one. If you need one. They're not right for everybody. Hey, Kenzie, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Walker.
I'm so glad you're here. Tell me something. You are, you and I have had this discussion in the past where you said there's difference between an entrepreneur and somebody with an entrepreneurial mindset. Play with that for a second. What's the difference in your mind? Because we hear, oh, you have this entrepreneurial mindset and they freaking work in a company. Tell me the difference.
Right. You try to send me down the rabbit hole early.
Yes. Hit it hard.
You know, an entrepreneur, I always say, has had to do some strange things for change. Not the best saying, but it's my saying, because you've never had to cover payroll, if you've never had to figure out how to pay your taxes, if you've never had to figure out, why you're making a payment or why you're investing in someone. There's more than just the spirit of being an entrepreneur and being inventive and coming up with new thoughts. It's actually the execution of running a business. And I think lots of people think being an entrepreneur is only because you like doing something, which is the spirit of entrepreneurship.
Right. Yeah. Right. Exactly.
But if you don't like running a business and the function of running a business and having to make tough decisions every day, that's what it takes to be an entrepreneur.
No, I think you're dead on. It's funny. I laugh with people that a lot of us, if we started working for a company or somebody else, we quit our 40 to 50 hour a week jobs with solid pay to go work 90 hours a week and have complete chaos in your life, at least for a while, right? And even so, it's part of what it energizes me. I don't love chaos, but I am a survivor, like most entrepreneurs probably see themselves, right? As a survivor. We have, what's it called? Starts with an R, resilience.
Resilience. I think it's a little crazy. You have to be a special type of crazy to jump off the cliff and run a business.
No kidding. Because it's hard. It's hard as shit. And it's harder than people think it is. Because we all think it's going to be different for us.
Well, everybody thinks they're going to make their first million in the first 30 days.
Right. I haven't yet.
Still waiting.
So what has surprised you the most about being an entrepreneur?
Oh, you know what? That's probably part of it. I told a mentor a while ago, he was like, Kenzie, you make it look so easy. You always look like you have it so together. And I was like, let's get down to facts. No one wants to do business with a busted entrepreneur.
Right.
So I think it is this whole myth that being an entrepreneur is so easy and we're living this life and we get to take time off whenever we want to and vacation whenever we want to. And I'm like, what's a vacation? Because I work every morning of every vacation I've been on since I started my first company. So it really is.
Which is one thing I want to break you up, by the way, but we'll continue.
I'm working on it.
I know you are. I got it. Right? Yes.
But that it's the disconnect of, we all walk around looking so buttoned up because, if you're having a tough day, you don't want to freak out your clients. You don't want to freak out your team.
Right. Yeah.
How do you humanize life in general, which I think is super important right now? That how do we allow entrepreneurs to be human again and express emotion?
How do you do that?
Oh, I like to sit in a corner and cry from time to time. So
you have a corner. I've got a whole piece of my office. It's not just the corner.
Right? So I do a lot of effort with my team to say, how do we humanize our interactions with each other?
Yeah.
A lot of my team have children or they have animals. And I'm like, bring the kid to the meetings. We have a 4-year-old who shows up to a lot of our meetings where I'm waiting for her to be like, nope, next week we're going to do this. Like, I just know she to tell us what to do.
The 2-year-old will. Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So I think that's part of it, humanizing the interaction, reminding people about gratitude, and really digging into your company culture.
Yeah. So what does that mean?
Oh, I spend so much time on our company culture. So a lot of people have their company culture written on a wall, and they just expect for people to read it when they're walking in.
Right. Their culture statement.
Right. But after the first 3 days of working there, people stop reading it.
Yeah.
And even especially being virtual, most companies right now during this pandemic, I'm like, if your culture and your culture statement and your core values don't lend themselves to you being virtual, they're not actual core values. They're more of how you like people to model their work when they walk into your company.
Nice. So how do your core values model being virtual?
Yeah. So
other than that's your whole damn business.
Right. Our core values are really focused around the idea of amazing executive assistants. Okay. So we talk about things like an executive mindset. Mm-hmm. And that's more than just, I'm a leader. I know how to get things done. Right. But how do you build meaningful relationships? How are you transparent with each other to help move something forward? Mm-hmm. How are you a good neighbor? How do you care about more than just, hey, Walker, you need this task done, but how do I check on you to know how you're doing?
Yeah.
Being a student of your craft, because I think that's one of the biggest things out there. A lot of people get the job, they get the role, they start the company. They may learn one thing, but then they stop learning. Yeah. How do you push yourself to keep learning? I think that makes an amazing EA and an amazing human, an amazing executive. If you're going to be a part of my team, you should want to learn all the time.
Yeah. So her service, you heard her mention, her company matches executive assistants with entrepreneurs, business owners, nonprofits, foundations, the people that lead those things, with people who are top-notch executive assistants to help them do the stuff so the executive can be more efficient with their time and their energy, right? Yeah. So there are so many things that I suck at, right? I suck at organization. I suck at keeping my calendar up. I suck at making things look pretty. I suck at a lot of computer work. And before I knew Kenzie, before I was introduced to her, I was trying to do all that shit on my own because I thought I couldn't afford to have somebody do that for me. I didn't have the space. I didn't have the time. I didn't have the effort. Didn't have to onboard somebody. And a friend of mine said, you need to call Kenzie. And interestingly enough, I interviewed 3 executive assistant companies. And I interviewed the first one, and it was on Zoom. And what I noticed was the technical term is fucking chaos in the background. People back and forth, looked like she's working in a cube. She's talking to me about all the things they're going to help me with. But I looked around, I was like, I'm more nervous talking to you than I was on my own, right? Then I was more, you're as crazy as I am. And so then I called Kenzie, and when I talked to her, she's sitting in her office. She is calm. We're having a conversation about stuff. She listens to me. She's like, okay, makes sense. Yep, we handle that. Yep. How do you do this? How do you do that? And I was like, that's what I want to do. I want to run my company like Kenzie's running hers. And so that was it. I didn't care if Kenzie was twice as much money. I'm telling you that now, and after paid, right?
I know.
But the point is, there are so many people out there that feel either, number one, they can't afford it, or number two, that they don't have the room or aren't ready for that yet. And the point is, once you take the step to hire somebody, once I took the step to hire somebody to come do this work for me, my business moved up considerably because I was able to pass off the stuff that's worth $50 an hour and less, so that I can do the stuff that's worth $500 to $1,000 and more, which is selling, being in front of people, coaching, creating new stuff, right, for my clients. That's where I can focus my time. And so that's what Kenzie's service allows me to do. So how in the world did you come up with this idea?
Yeah, so the joke is that my mom is treating me like her executive assistant for me. But in reality, so it all goes back to grad school. I wrote my graduate thesis, which was at the end of the Great Recession, on improving the American economy through the production of luxury goods, and really started digging into this skill-based labor force that had been disconnected from work, either by being moved into other positions or being downsized, and saying, how do we connect them back to a truly livable wage? I did my master's at SCAD and in luxury and fashion management, so it had more of a fashion twist.
Savannah College of Art and Design, for those of you who don't know SCAD, yes.
But just from digging in there and really getting an assessment of the full economy, especially across the US and all of these highly based skilled jobs, I started thinking, how do we take this to the next level? So fast forward 2 years later, started getting all these questions about virtual assistants and started thinking,
which wasn't really a thing for a while, was it?
No, but I had a social media agency, and at that time, if you did anything on the internet, people thought you knew everything about
Of course.
the
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah, of course.
So I'm getting all these questions. I'm thinking about the thesis. Fast forward another couple months, I'm meeting with a retiring executive from Coca-Cola, and we're working on something for social media because I had a social media agency. In the middle of the meeting, she looks at me in sheer panic, and she was like, I'm supposed to be somewhere in 30 minutes. And I was like, okay. And she was like, I don't know where I'm supposed to be. I made a meeting. It's the first meeting I've ever scheduled. I had all this support before, but now I'm retired. I don't have any help. I don't know where I'm supposed to be. I was like, that's weird, because people keep asking me about virtual assistants, and I've been trying to figure out how we make it work, but maybe it's the niche of virtual executive assistants.
Okay, so what's the difference?
So
what's an executive assistant versus an assistant?
Yep, an assistant is someone who really checks the item off the list. So you say, I need to, well, you're not doing it right now, but I need to fly across country and go to a meeting, right?
Yes.
An assistant is just going to say like, okay, done. Yep. An executive assistant is going to say, well, you're really cranky when you take a red eye. So we're going to try you in the afternoon before and book a hotel and get your massage before this big meeting.
Right.
And since you're there, you have a cousin that's there, you have 5 other clients that you can meet while you're there. Let's go ahead and try to get those meetings on the book so you can actually spread out the expense of the fact that you're flying across country and getting all these things done.
Yes.
An assistant does not always go on to be an executive assistant. And not all executive assistants start off as assistants.
Right.
A lot of executive assistants start off in project management, operations roles. They may be a director and then make a transition into an executive assistant role. And it really is that executive mindset that I think people hear VA and they're like, oh, cool, got it. Like,
I got an intern. Right. I got an intern, right? Or we can get one of those in Upworks, which maybe you can. You can get a virtual assistant in Upworks, and that's a task doer. And my virtual assistant, my virtual executive assistant, her name is Cheryl, and she's in Atlanta. And Cheryl does a lot of my thinking for me. She's like, you have the following meetings come up this week. Here are the materials for that. By the way, I noticed you took on your calendar yourself, Walker. Shame on you. You've double booked yourself. I've now fixed that. Here's what you need to do. By the way, I've taken care of these 3 things as well. I'm like, holy shit, I don't have anything to do this week but sell, train, and work on new stuff and talk to my clients. And I'm like, holy cow, right? And so that has allowed this change. I wish I had a copy of the email that I sent to you, because I said, I wanted to write down all the things I needed help with, and my hair was on fire. And I wrote this
We still have it.
I know. Well, I needed all this long list of ADHD things, and I sent them off to you, and you laughed and you said, holy shit. And you said, look, we got this. And you got that. So tell me, the cool part about your business, among other cool parts about your business, is that the world moved to you. Yeah. Especially during COVID, right? Because everybody's working in the normal office environments. Everything's the same as it's always been. We always assume things will continue to be the way they've always been. And then all of a sudden with the COVID thing, number 1, ain't nobody working from an office anymore. Number 2, mass layoffs. Who's the first people to get cut? It's often the hourly people, the staff, right? We got to keep the executives, got to lay off everybody else. And so now we got these people that are having to do their own shit. And they're mired in that stuff. They're not good at it. And especially when you're used to having help. I mean, it sucks. So now all of a sudden, and I think you told me this, a year before this, people are like, why the hell would you do a virtual assistant? Tell me that story.
Yeah. So, I've been getting many weird looks from executives for a long time, especially corporations who, 7 years ago when I very first started doing this, I was all like upbeat. Hey, Mr. Corporation, don't you want to outsource all of your EA support to me virtually?
Hell no.
And they were like, who is this crazy girl? Like, get out of our face. What are you talking about?
Right.
Yeah, there were some learning lessons there. So
right.
It's just been an interesting transition of, retired executives actually caught on to what we were doing very early. Nonprofits were kind of right behind them, and small businesses.
Wonder why nonprofits?
So nonprofits know that they need the access to high level support, but they don't know where and how to find it.
Right.
Like everybody has told them for so long, like just get an intern.
Yeah.
Or they have a family friend that they hired as an assistant a long time ago, and everybody's afraid to step on that family friend's toes.
Right.
And it's that they need access to high level support. They need access to corporate level EAs, because think about who they're talking to from a fundraising perspective every day, from donors to the people they're actually benefiting. You want someone who can talk to every single person on the phone and make them feel like the king or queen of the earth across the board.
Absolutely. Yep. And that the executive doesn't have their hair on fire when they're doing this, that they got their shit together.
Yes. And they have someone that can help manage a long-term process.
Right.
I feel like nonprofits are always told like, oh, you can get help for a period of time, but they deserve so much more. Like they're doing the work we all need to be doing across the world. So to give them someone consistent and high level, that's not going to cost them six figures to sit outside their door, makes a huge difference.
And so the thing is, the people that come work with you, I love one of your philosophies that I say, I love this. I don't know if it's a philosophy, but you are always telling me I'm on a mission to help other people. And the cool thing is those aren't just words for you. That is like your thing. And so you're helping, number one, all of your executive assistants used to work in corporate America. Most of them were making close to six figures, if not over.
Mm-hmm.
They've had lots of experience, but for one reason or another, they're no longer in corporate America. They hated it, didn't want to do it anymore. Family pulled them back, or they got laid off.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so all of a sudden, there's this wonderful pool of talent that's nowhere to go, and you can plug them in to folks. And on the other side, you're helping those of us, hair on fire entrepreneurs, business owners, and others to get shit done, which we desperately need. So how'd you come? Have you always been on a mission to help others?
Yes. So I was raised in a household where I was always out volunteering with my family. I didn't necessarily realize what I was doing at that time, but I remember going and building Habitat for Humanity houses when I was very little. I remember sitting in the back of community meetings with my mom when I was little. Like I remember even my dad, who was a criminal attorney, when his clients couldn't pay him, lots of times he helped them start companies. So the whole idea of how do you stop going back to jail? You need to know that you can earn your own income.
That. Okay, cool.
Family painter for years until he passed away with someone my dad helped, and then his whole family became painters. I mean, and so I think we have to rethink the way that we help people, especially right now, especially with everything going on with the Black Lives Matter movement. A lot of people think there's only money is the only solution to help people. We have said we're starting a mentor program, which actually will kick off in January officially with Greenville Tech, which is a local technical school here. But, how do we take the talent and the amazing women we have working within our organization and help teach other women how to be executive assistants to help move their households forward? So I think it's just helping people think about how they go to their toolbox to help people and help people progress and move forward.
It makes perfect sense. And I love the bigger scale. And I love go back to the old dumb, give a man a fish, eats for a day, teach a man to fish. He's drunk in his boat all the time. Old fisherman joke, right? So, so what's the hardest part about selling what you have?
Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people don't know who we are or understand what we offer. There's a lot of
just we as an industry or we as Worksby?
I would say we as Worksby. I would say we as Worksby, because we really do focus in on that executive assistant experience. Mm-hmm. And a lot of our competitors are selling virtual assistant experiences, but they try to make it sound like an executive assistant experience.
Yep.
And a lot of it's because they're adding layers of management and support in order to make things happen. So really it is, for us, the misunderstanding between what an executive assistant brings versus what an assistant brings to the table and what they can do for your company. Lots of people end up back at my doorstep because they thought they were getting an executive assistant.
Yep.
But they were only getting an assistant. So, I mean, I think it's more people knowing the works be name. I think it is people understanding that difference between the two, so they can ask the right questions to actually get what they need.
What are the right questions somebody should be asking, maybe even themselves, to decide if they need a virtual executive assistant?
Yeah. So, I mean, a lot of it, I say, goes back to process and where you are in process. So if you don't have a process,
that would be me.
Your hair's on fire and you're just kind of all over the place, or things are constantly falling between the cracks, you're constantly showing up late to meetings, you probably need an executive assistant. And I say an executive assistant, like an assistant can go in and help you get your calendar together, right? But an executive assistant will say something to you like, you're scheduling your meetings too close together. Or the last time you met with this person, they spoke for 30 extra minutes.
Right.
Don't we want to put a buffer on here? Or you get cranky then and we need lunch. Like, there's all these things that people think like, oh, an assistant can just handle this.
Right.
But you probably need an executive assistant. And then it's understanding when you're talking to someone, like, how many years of experience does that person bring in? What is your vetting process? And then how are you pairing me with somebody? So
So in other words, the question they might ask somebody like you is, so how do you vet the people that you hire? Right. Number one. Number two, what are the things that you provide for them so they stay? Right. What else?
I'd say that pairing piece is a big one. I was on a website earlier today for a competitor, and all of their open new clients, all of their profiles for what they needed were just listed on an open website for anybody to apply to work with the client.
So they were going to Upworks to have people apply to them, do this. So not a lot of vetting. Got it.
So, I mean, that vetting piece is huge. The care around the pairing, and then what is the follow-up process after the pairing. And then I think it's important to ask, what does that onboarding look like, right? So we talk about the EA onboarding the client and how they get you to where you need to be.
100% true.
Here's 5 people we're going to throw into your situation. So communication is getting jumbled all over the place.
Yes. And so it's interesting because I was afraid, one of my big fears in doing this was, how in the world am I going to teach somebody else about all the chaos in my business? And it's funny, I didn't have to tell anybody. Of course you knew, but Cheryl, she onboarded me, like you said. She said, all right, let's start with this, and then we'll go to this, and then we'll go to this. And I'm like, shit, I'm the one over here that's learning. But she took everything, all my mess, and created systems and processes. And the interesting thing to me is, what gives me great comfort is that if Cheryl ever says, go to hell and quits, which has happened to me before, not Cheryl, but somebody else has, and or something happens, Cheryl has everything set up in place in a calendar with lists and processes so someone else could pick it up. That to me is invaluable. And I've been working, in my current situation for 6 years and haven't had anything like that. So that's worth a ton to me. And so when somebody hires a virtual executive assistant with you, they buy a block of hours per month. Is that correct? Typically, what does that look like?
So it's usually 40 hours. 40 to 60 hours, depending on what's going on. And we focus on the active time, because when you think about your full day and how much active time you're actually spending doing work, it's not the full 8 hours every day. So if you're starting with somebody for 40 hours a month, it's like getting part-time support. And lots of people are like, don't you mean 40 hours a week? I'm like, no. 40 hours a month.
Right.
That part-time support that you need to start moving things forward.
And so I started, I think, at 40 hours, and then pretty quickly I got to 50 hours. And what I find is I'm getting, for the money I spend, I get about a 5-time return on the money I spend every single month, because it's allowed me to go do the stuff that brings money into the business that I'm good at, and not to do the stuff that makes me want to run the hell out of here and burn the whole thing down.
Right. I don't know an entrepreneur to this day who likes sending a proposal.
Jesus. I just don't do that. I sure would make my assistant do that, but I don't do them. But yes, it sucks, right? Plus, it's such a waste of time. And we that's a whole other sales issue. It's a freaking waste of time to send damn proposals. But man, this has been fun. Let me tell you a couple things I've learned from you today. And some of the stuff I knew, but you've reinforced it. Your belief, right, that you're on a mission to help others, that comes through from your heart and it bleeds all the way into your business, and that's who you are, and it's so transparent. It's awesome. And I wish more people, including myself, were able to be that way. I'm working on it. You're my hero for that way. Number two, I love the difference between the executive assistant and the assistant, right? It's somebody who's actually thinking for you, being proactive, looking for problems before they get there and then solving them, right? It's like the street sweeper coming ahead of you. Certainly helps for me. How, Kenzie, would people find you if they wanted to find out more about your service, what you do, and how maybe you can help them?
Oh, yeah. So, of course, we have our website. So, Worksbee, WORXBEE.com. On there, there's Calendly links. Those Calendly links actually go directly to me. So you can always schedule a time to talk with us and learn more. Of course, we're on social media because it's the way of the world. So you can find us on Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter to find out new things going on with Worksbee. And we're always open. Feel free to reach out and schedule a call, even if you're just debating if you need an executive assistant or the best way to vet people or set up an interview. Let us know.
It's awesome. She's a great resource. Once again, this is just, shameless plugging here, but her service is great. Executive assistant services are great. I highly recommend it. If you feel like you don't have enough time in the day, you're doing a bunch of shit you don't want to do, I recommend reaching out to Kenzie or another service, but I highly recommend her as I can speak. And they've got clients and assistants all over the country. Mm-hmm. So based in South Carolina, got clients and assistants all over the country. So thank you so much, Kenzie. Appreciate you being on the show.
Thank you, Walker. Thank you for having me.
No BS Sales Team, so glad you listened today. If you are struggling with having the time to get things done, if you're struggling with how do we make it right, I really would suggest you talk to Kenzie at Worksbee. If you want more information about what I do, we have a newsletter that goes out twice a week. Go to my website, walkermckay.com. Sign up for the newsletter there. Our numbers are going up and up and up. We're getting good reviews on this. If you've learned something today in this podcast, email me, walker@walkermckay.com. Love to hear from you. I'm getting lots of feedback, more, and a lot of it good. So I appreciate that very much. If you got something shitty to say, you're welcome to say that too. It's okay. Stand in line for that. Kenzie, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you very much. You're a good person, and I enjoy working with you.
My pleasure. Thank you, Walker.